The next one. Mother-in-law signed up for Mummy and Me classes. Is that weird? My mother-in-law, who absolutely hated me until the baby was born, is now kissing my ass, has signed up for Mummy and Me classes. My sister-in-law is the one who told me, so I don't know details. I brought it up to my husband and he didn't think it was weird. He thinks if it's good for the baby, then who cares? But I feel it crosses boundaries, which she does all the time. Do you think that's weird? What I think is especially strange about this situation is simply that she didn't ask. I think some classes might be normal, might be acceptable to go to as a grandma. I don't think that there's any problem with that as a grandma with her grandchild. I don't think that there's necessarily a problem with that by itself. Yes, they're called Mummy and Me classes, but also it really doesn't matter if she's a caretaker or if she's spending a lot of time with the baby, or if she wants to have special bonding time with the baby and part of that experience is, I don't know, doing yoga together or something, then whatever, right? It's not a problem. What is kind of strange to me is that she would do this without saying anything. Also especially strange that the sister-in-law knew, and she told her, presumably, I guess, without knowing that the mother here doesn't know. There's a little bit of a strange situation. My image of it is that she kind of, like the mother-in-law just booked something and she spoke about it to her daughter. And then her daughter thought, oh, they must know. And then that's how it came up in conversation. But who knows, right? Who knows how that went down? Otherwise, the point at which it crosses boundaries is you cannot decide that you're going to take my kid to anything without speaking to me about it, right? That's a little bit obvious. So that's the part about this that's a little bit strange. If the husband doesn't find it strange, then it seems to me like it may be possible they had some kind of rough conversation about it at some point in the past. If he's like, yeah, sure, she can take him wherever, then probably she knew that the husband would be okay with it, and then she just didn't talk to the mother about it. And yeah, okay, maybe that's its own problem, but then I'd probably say that the fundamental issue is that the husband and the wife here, the mother, are not on the same page with regards to what is acceptable in terms of how the grandma, how the mother-in-law here interacts with the baby or with the child. So that's probably where the issue is. In terms of, is it weird? I would want her to let me know, and I would kind of expect her to, and I would find it weird to be told from my sister-in-law. That's the part that I would want to talk to her about. Otherwise, I think it's okay. Now, I seem to be the only person who okay, there's maybe a couple of other people in the threads here who do think that it's kind of okay, so long as you speak about it first. A lot of comments are along these lines. It's very weird. Tell your husband she raised her babies, kids, teenagers. She had all the firsts and made her mummy memories. Now it's your turn. There is absolutely no reason for her to go to those types of classes. If she wants to do something helpful, she can get certified in infant CPR. And then the other comments, does she expect to take your baby to these classes? How does he not think it's weird for someone other than mum to sign up for the class, especially without talking to the mummy? Yes, you should maybe talk to the mother before you make plans with her baby, or at least with the dad, and then the dad should bring the mother in. Now, this is a really interesting part to this whole equation that only came up in the comments. One person says, is she managing childcare? And then she says, if not, I would just tell her no. OP says, no, she is not, but she stops by our house when the nanny takes care of her while I'm at work. Then a lot of people here reply, that's not okay unless she has written permission from you or your child to see your child while they're there. Another commenter says, I would let your nanny know that no one has permission to enter your home or take your child without your verbal consent that day. I would fire someone immediately if they let anyone into my home without my prior knowledge. And then the next person says, the poor nanny, I'd imagine that's very intrusive and awkward for her, having your mother-in-law coming by all the time to see your baby. While on some level that may suit you because you won't have to see her as much or deal with her, have you had an honest conversation with your nanny to see if they mind this? I hope they'd feel comfortable enough to tell you that they would prefer not to entertain mother-in-law during their work day. And then OP replies, that's a good point. I should talk to her about it. There is so much wrong with all of these comments to me. Number one, it's clear that the mother-in-law is available and free during the day. Now, I understand not wanting to rely on her for regular childcare, but under those circumstances, I would probably say, hey, it's okay to not be paying a nanny for a couple of hours so that the mother-in-law can hang out if she wants to hang out with her grandkid. And number two, the idea that the nanny is uncomfortable with the mother-in-law being present. Therefore, you should set up your house and structure everything so that the nanny is maximally comfortable. If the nanny is truly uncomfortable with having the grandma present, then that's a problem, in my opinion, on the nanny's end. Because the nanny is getting paid to be present. Technically, if the grandma is there, then she's doing less work, so she's getting paid to do less. The suggestion that she's entertaining the grandma during her workday, like, I don't believe for a second that that's actually happening. So I find that a little bit strange. And the third one is all of the comments. No one has permission to enter your home, take your child without verbal consent. She is a grandma. She's not a random stranger. And I do think that it's different treating your grandma or treating members of the family as if they are people that you've never seen, people that the kid doesn't know, people that you don't want interacting with your child. I don't quite understand why everyone actively hates the mother-in-law so much in this situation. And it's a little bit strange to me that you would ever say, hey, you know, she drops by, and then everyone's like, oh my God, this is such a huge problem. And then from that, OP says, oh yeah, maybe I should talk to her about that. Because clearly OP herself did not have a problem with it happening. It is just purely from the influence of other people that suddenly she goes, oh, okay, maybe there is really a problem with that. As far as I'm concerned, I would have a major problem, or at least have some anxiety about leaving my child with a nanny. And it would take a long time for me to be so comfortable with a person outside of my family, or outside of our immediate family, to trust them that they can really handle my child, that they're not going to do anything that I wouldn't want them to do, and so on. Because they're a stranger, and it takes a long time to be comfortable with a stranger. I don't know what it is about relationships and families and grandparents these days, that this relationship that you have with an external person who you've hired, who you're paying, is so much stronger and so much more believable and so much more trustworthy for people than the relationship that they have with the grandparents of the child. I think that this is super sad and very strange. And now I know that OP says here, my mother-in-law absolutely hated me until the baby was born. And then she also says she crosses boundaries all the time. Now, with regards to mother-in-law absolutely hated me until the baby was born, maybe there was conflict there for whatever reason. We don't know what the reason for the conflict is. I know that pretty much everyone on this forum comes down hard on the mom's side, and I kind of understand where that's coming from. But maybe there's another perspective to this. And maybe the mother-in-law really worked on herself, really worked on her attitude, really worked on how she interacts with her daughter-in-law, and she kind of tried to get over it for the benefit of the child, because now she understands, hey, there's a grandkid. It's not good for me to be at odds with his mother all the time, so maybe I should change how I'm behaving. That's a potential different way of looking at this situation. And then she says, hey, she crosses boundaries all the time, but it's clear that the mother here has a completely different boundary to her husband, right? And if the husband is okay with it, then maybe the problem is that you guys aren't on the same page with regards to what is a boundary and what is not. And that's obviously going to be very confusing for the grandma. So why everyone came down so hard on the mother-in-law in this situation, I actually don't know. I mean, yes, okay, she signed up for some classes without saying anything about it, seemingly, but you can have a conversation about that. You can just talk to her about it. You can say, hey, my kid isn't going to be going anywhere without this. Everything else with regards to the nanny, I just found really strange and really sad and really depressing. And I don't know how we ended up in this place where people just don't have this type of relationship at all with their grandparents, with the grandparents of their children. But I would really hope that this is something that people work on for themselves, because it just sucks to be at odds like that all the time. And it definitely sucks for the kids, who will notice immediately the moment that they're old enough to pay attention to the interactions that you have with each other. They will definitely be able to tell that you're uncomfortable with the other side of the family. And that's not a healthy environment for a child either. So yes, it's a little bit weird to sign up for Mommy and Me classes, but maybe this mother-in-law is getting so excluded from her grandkid's life that she's looking for strange ways to be a part of his life and to try to spend time with him. Or her. I think it was a she.